All right, let's talk USC Trojans. This has been one of the more interesting teams we've covered this offseason, making a lot of really great moves, of course, whether it be recruiting or transfers. They made a lot of really solid hires, and this program is generally trending in the right direction. Disappointing season last year. We all understand that. But again, as we look towards the future, it's clear that Lincoln Riley has reoriented this team in a great direction. And we've got a report today highlighting an incredible job the Trojans are doing and how the future looks even brighter in Los Angeles. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, I'm Nick. That's Andrew. And this is Saturday Morning Inspection. When it comes to success for any program in college football, especially USC, really any blue blood, any program, really, it's all about setting yourself up for long-term success. And how you do that is through recruiting. College football is about recruiting. NFL is about coaching. Great Jimmy Johnson once said that, and it is so true. And the Trojans have done an incredible job, not just winning recruits in this class, we've covered that a lot, but setting themselves up for the long term. You need to have a long-term recruiting pipeline, and the Trojans, in terms of building that pipeline and the strategy they've used, has done a really incredible job. Let's get into the report, then we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is from SI.com. The USC Trojans have serious momentum on the recruiting front. Currently, the Trojans have the number one 2026 recruiting class in the country, according to 24/7 Sports, albeit it's a little early for that class, but still number one is good. A big piece of the Trojan success on the recruiting trail is in part to defensive line coach Eric Hendrickson and secondary coach Doug Belk. Their efforts haven't gone unnoticed, as 24/7 Sports has Belk listed as the number one recruiter in the country, number one in the country, with Henderson right behind him at number two. 24/7 Sports has credited Belk as the lead recruiter of 4 commits in the Trojans 2026 class. Henderson was considered a lead recruiter of 5 commits in USC's class, including their top commit and 5-star defensive lineman Xavier Griffin. We've covered Henderson a lot. I think Belk's been kind of going under the radar, but he's obviously doing great things as well. When you bring in and hire great recruiters, you can change the entire direction of the program. A lot of coaches, a lot of staffs are looking for that one guy, that one great recruiter. Lincoln Riley, the Trojans, they got themselves two. Phenomenal job by USC. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this, but Trojans fans, you first in the comment section below. As we are getting deeper as into the offseason, spring ball is upon us. We're already looking forward to fall camp. Who's going to be the next starters at certain key positions? What's one under the radar playmaker on this Trojans team? Offense, defense, special teams, doesn't matter. What's on one under the radar guy that you think is going to surprise a lot of people? Give us that breakout USC Trojans player. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of USC?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is just really great news because, like you said, NFL more about coaching, college more about recruiting. Especially, I think USC they garnered that to say, hey, we need to just throw away the book. We need to hit the defense hard. We need to go out here and make moves to make our defense better. Offense, we have faith in Lincoln Riley, what he brings to the table. We need to do something about the defense. So they took that to heart. They took what you said to heart as far as how do you reset the defense? Do we go find, the best strategic minds, the best coaches? No. What do? We go find the best recruiters in the country and get ourselves the best talent. And I'll say this, it doesn't, hurt. These guys are also very good coaches as well, as far as, Belt being a long tenure at Houston under Dana Holgorsen is doing a really good job. He moved up the ranks really quickly from starting there as the team safety coach to co-defensive coordinator to the full-time defensive coordinator there. I think he did a lot of great things. And then Henderson, of course, being that defensive line coach at the Rams, where, like we said, coaching is more important than NFL. Rams defensive line, been really good. So him coming over here, really great coach. But these guys, what they've done on the recruiting trail is nothing short of magnificent early on. Because, if we came early and said, hey, this is a USC squad where they've got three of the best quarterbacks in the country. They just recruited these guys. Everyone would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Lincoln Riley, quarterback, that's what they do. That's what this team is all about. But when I tell you the top 5 recruits per PFF of this 2026 class, they're a 5-star defensive lineman, a 4-star corner, a 4-star D lineman, a 4-star D lineman, and a 4-star cornerback. The top 5 recruits are all defensive players now. They've done a fantastic job. I think that this has gone understated for a little bit here. I don't think people are giving them the credit they deserve. I think, like you said, Doug Belk, no one's talking about what he's done, and he's noticed as a number one recruiter in the country when it comes to all of college football. Having one guy that's a top five recruiter, you feel like, I feel pretty good. I think that that's going to be something really special for this program. But now having two guys that are number one and number two, that's incredible. Going out, picking out two guys, and then they immediately come to your program, become the number one and number two recruiters in the country. I think that's huge. I think this is really good news for Southern Cal, and I think this just shows they've hit a home run here, and I have full faith that they are going to turn this defense around, and we're going to see some massive changes here coming for them shortly.
Yeah, college football, in my opinion, is a relatively simple game. NFL is a little bit more complex, but honestly, what I'm about to say is true to the NFL in some ways too. And it's going to be kind of obvious, right? The team with better players generally wins, right? I love the old saying, right, where it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog, which is great for like movies. But in reality, if it's a really, really big dog against a really, really little dog, the big dog's going to win every time. I don't care how feisty the little dog is, right? And what has to happen is you have to be that big dog in terms of talent. You have to be laced with elite talent. If you have great players, you'll win a lot of games, you'll win titles. Nick Saban is a phenomenal X's and O's guy. He's a great motivator, knows how to build a program. They won a lot of titles in Alabama because they were the best recruiting program, right? Clemson under Dabo Swinney, right? He's a great coach. He's a great motivator. They won a couple titles there because for about 3, 4, 5 years, they were amazing at recruiting. Same thing with Kirby Smart in Georgia. When they were winning a lot because they're amazing at recruiting. The reality is you have to be great at recruiting. You have to bring in incredible amounts of talent. If you do that, you'll win championships, right? And look, coaching will improve that. Strategy will improve it. Building a culture, building a program, that will improvement. But recruiting sets your ceiling. It's if you don't bring in enough 100 guys, if you bring in a lot of 90 guys, the best you'll ever be is 90, even with perfect coaching. If you bring in a lot of 100 guys and you're not 100% perfect coaching, and they end up only meeting 95 of their percent and of their potential, and they get up to 95, guess what? That 95 is better than 90. You lose if you're the 90, right? That's why you need to bring in elite talent, and that's exactly what the Trojans are doing, especially on defense, which is a massive need. We all understand that. And just to break it down real quick, how crazy the defensive issue is for the Trojan. If you look at the Big Ten defensive rankings last season, here are the teams that finished worse than USC on defense: Purdue, Rutgers, and Maryland. That's it, right? We're talking about the powerhouses of Purdue, of Rutgers, and Maryland, right? 99% of people don't even know that Maryland's in DC. And most people can't even point to Purdue on a map. They think it's somewhere in Indiana, I guess, right? This is the problem that USC really needed to fix. It goes back a couple of years. Defensive issues have cost them time and time again. Bringing in Henderson, bringing in Belk, and they've done in such short order just proves that was a really great job by Lincoln Riley and the leadership in USC. It takes a lot for a coach to humble himself and recognize he has serious deficiencies in defensive recruiting and defensive evaluations. Clearly was a big problem. It was a big problem in Oklahoma, to be honest, with Lincoln Riley. But if you win games 50-40, you're just like, we're 12-0. We won every game 50-40, but we're still 12-0. That problem in the Big Ten, better conference, obviously, than the Big 12, at least in this day and age, you can't hide behind. You can't score 50 a game on offense. Just won't happen. Too many good defenses, too much talent going around, too big of a conference, too deep of a conference. You need to fix your defense, and that's exactly what Lincoln Riley has done on the talent level. It comes down to having better players. It comes down to having better players. It comes down to having better players. So many coaches, staff, so many programs just don't seem to get it, right? You need to recruit better. I don't care about we're going to go to a 3-4 defense or a 4-3 defense or whatever. Hey, that's great. Get better players. If you do that, you will win. It's not complicated. It's not easy, right? Recruiting's hard, but it's not complicated. The Trojans have figured it out finally, and their trajectory because of it is in the right direction.
Yeah, Nick, and I think in summation here, I got a quick question for you that we can end this one on. And you talk about Alabama's of the world, you talk about the Georgias of the world, and how they did really great in recruiting. But how much more impressive is it here? The Pete Carroll days are long behind USC. The fact that this is a organization, I would say overall, they're in a down period and they're doing so with recruiting, doesn't that make it even more impressive that they're competing with these Georgias, with these Alabamas, with these Ohio States? I think that's incredibly impressive and really gives them a little bit more credit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. USC is a blue blood program, right? They're one of the traditional powerhouses. You put Ohio State, Alabama, and USC, kind of Notre Dame, you can throw in there too as sort of, I would say maybe Texas too. So if you want to have the top five programs in college football in terms of most recognizable, best brand, consistent winners, USC has been the West Coast version of that for, I mean, decades, right? Going back to the 60s and 70s, right? I mean, that's just who USC is. Now, the reality is, of course, in recruiting is that these 17, 16, 15-year-old kids, they don't really, obviously they've been around since, 2000, what, a little quick math here, 2008. So they don't exactly, I mean, look, a lot of these guys weren't alive when Reggie Bush was doing Reggie Bush things in Southern Cal. So the history and tradition is great and it certainly helps. And of course, all of that, but you do need to go out and execute on that. And I think that's one of those things when it comes to being a blue blood program is you can't rest on your laurels and just expect it to happen. You got to go out and get it done, and you got to hire people that can get it done. That's one of the reasons when Nick Saban came into the fold, he brought in and retained recruiters to the state of Alabama because he said, listen, if we don't recruit, we're going to lose, right? I'm nothing without my players. He famously told the Alabama AD at the time, we're not going to win if we don't get good players. And I think that's the approach Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans are finally taking. I mean, I think the better job with Henderson as Belk is that they're new at USC, right? How fast they've done this. I honestly thought it was going to be a 2 or 3 year process to really solve all the recruiting problems. And I was hoping in the meantime that the offense with a new quarterback would maybe step its game up a little bit. Obviously Lincoln Riley can quarterback development recruiting. He's still phenomenal at that. With that with better quarterback play and a little bit better defensive play, they slowly get better. We're seeing an overnight turnaround on defense in the 2025, 2026 class. I think by the 2026 season, obviously not this season, but the following year, USC will be among the elite in the defense in the Big Ten. We know the offense will be fine. I think starting that year, maybe this year, we'll have to see, but I think definitely by 2026, the Trojans will be competing for and maybe winning national titles again.